Hey everyone, my name's Madison. Thanks for checking out my channel. Today I'm going to do a review of Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. This story is a fantasy story about a magical ship named Vivacia. At the beginning of the story, Vivacia is just a regular ship, but she's made out of wizard wood. And what that means is she's owned by the Vestrit family, and so when 3 of their Vestrit family have died on board her decks, she becomes alive. And she is probably what I would consider the main character of the book, because the whole story revolves around the Vestrit family trying to keep possession of her, while she's just trying to figure out what it means to be alive. So while this is happening, we follow 4 main storylines. Althea is the daughter of the patriarch of the Vestrit family. When the patriarch dies, Althea thinks that she is going to become the captain of Vivacia. She's very excited about this. She's been waiting for this her whole life. However, when Ephraim Vestrit dies, he is persuaded to not make Althea the captain, but to make his son-in-law Kyle the captain. They make this decision for financial reasons. The family's in debt, and they need to get out of debt as quickly as possible. Ephraim dies, Althea is essentially kicked off the ship, and Kyle is the captain. Kyle's kind of a tyrannical father and husband and captain, and he knows that in order for the live ship to sail, you have to have a family member on board, a blood family member. So he drags his son aboard. His son was a priest. He steals him essentially from the priesthood and makes him become a sailor, and essentially imprisons him on the ship. So right away, this relationship that is supposed to be very special between the live ship and her owners is kind of wrecked because of the strains that the family is in and the decisions they make because of that financial strain. At the same time as we're following Althea, Kyle, and Wintrow, we follow the matriarch of the family, who stays in Bingtown and tries to keep the family afloat through financial difficulties. You kind of get intrigue as you see Ronica navigate you learn what it means to be a Bingtown trader, and you kind of get a good feel for what's going on with the magic of the story, because the magic all of the magical materials in the world come from this area called the Rain Wilds, and Bingtown traders have a very close and mystical relationship with the Rain Wild traders, and so you kind of get a glimpse of that. And then finally, you follow the pirate, Kennett. He's hanging out, doing his piratey things, but he has big goals. He wants to become the Pirate King. And he has a 2-pronged approach to becoming the Pirate King, but they both revolve around getting as much power and trust as he can build. And so we watch him we follow him and his crew as they attempt to gain that power. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about the things I loved about this book. I loved the storylines and how they wove together seamlessly. When I first picked up the book and I started reading about a pirate, I was confused because pirates weren't supposed to be my main character. And then you immediately switch to Wintrow the priest, who at the time I didn't even understand how he was related to the story. But that built intrigue. It made me want to keep reading. And the way that Hobb weaves these stories together with the intertwined conflicts is really, really fun and interesting, and kept me reading. The way that they weave together, especially like to create the climax of the story, was beautiful. And the writing, at the beginning, I thought the writing was a little clunky, but as the stories begin to weave together, I really appreciated Robin Hobb's style. I also appreciated how Robin Hobb even made the scenes back at home in Bingtown really fascinating, because you get to understand the magic of the world a little bit better, and this mystical relationship that Bingtown traders have with the Rain Wilds, and the cost of that relationship. Speaking of the cost, I really loved the magic in this book. It's totally different than the magic in the Farseer trilogy. This magic is beautiful, and it permeates the book and the society that these people live in. It comes from the Rainwilds. Only Bingtown traders can trade with the Rainwild people, and so they kind of have a monopoly on these magical products. They're incredibly valuable, they're rare, and they are beautiful. And it was fun to read about that, but it was also really interesting to think about the cost of the magic. It costs a lot to be a Rainwild trader. The Rainwild traders, for some reason, they're essentially deformed, and they stay kind of in hiding because of their deformities and because of the dangers of where they live. And the Bingtown traders, in order to maintain a relationship with them and to trade in these magical goods, they pay a heavy cost as well. We're not exactly sure what the cost is, but we understand that it has to do with life. It has to do with, just think about the fact that 3 captains have to die on the deck of the ship before the ship becomes alive. And the souls or the minds of those captains kind of make the live ship who she is, but at the same time she's a distinct character. And so it's just very intricate and intriguing, and I really loved it. It was, especially comparing it to the rest of the Farseer trilogy. I also really loved the characters in this book, particularly Paragon and Vivacia. These are 2 of the live ships that we get to meet in the story, and their characters are kind of tragic, and they're parallel characters because Paragon is a live ship that is essentially beached and destroyed because something really terrible happened on his voyages, and I'm not going to get into what, read about it, it's awesome. But he's a tragic character who's trapped in this body, and he can't go anywhere, and he can't do anything, and he's basically insane. Or at least you get that impression. And so I really love getting to know him and trying to understand what made him the way he is, and I'm also curious about how his story is going to progress. Vivacia is the other live ship that you get to know. Her character is just as complex. She's significantly younger. She just comes to life in this story, and it was really intriguing to see how the events that surround her make her who she is, and to see how she tries to understand what it means to be a live ship, whether or not, and you know, how is she like a human, how is she different from a human. She was a very unique character, and I really appreciated that. Also, Wintro was a great character. He's my favorite character from the Vestrit family. I appreciated his story arc and the conflict that he experienced because he was stolen from the priesthood, forced aboard the ship. He loves the ship, but he wants to live his own life, and so there's a conflict there. There's a rich conflict there, internal conflict, as he tries to decide, should I stay aboard this ship even though I'm essentially a captive, or should I go and try to live out my life as a priest? So that conflict kind of it's between him and his father, but it's also between him and the live ship Vivacia. I also loved the pirates in this book. I have never really read a book about pirates, but they were a ton of fun. At the beginning of the story, you might be wondering how pirates fit in with the Vestrit family, but even once you figure out how it all intertwines together, it's okay, because it becomes something you really want to read about. Finally, I just want to say that Robin Hobb kept me engaged throughout this story, which was a nice change of pace from the Farseer trilogy. This is 880 pages, and I loved the whole thing. There wasn't one point where I was bored. Every time I put it down, I wanted to come back to these characters, even the terrible characters, which I'll get to in a moment. So I just think that she wove the stories together so well and really built up a sense of intrigue and mystery that made me want to keep reading. Now for some things I didn't like. I did not like the characters Kyle or Malta. They were just unbelievably destructive and selfish, and obviously they're the villains of the story, so that's okay, but they were very one-dimensional. They almost didn't feel human. Everything they did was so repetitive, they made the same stupid, selfish decisions over and over again, and they essentially are what causes the downfall of the Vestrit family. And again, all of this would be okay if they weren't so flat. And again, I could even understand that because these characters are the villains of a fantasy novel, but we have to read from their perspective. We're put in their mind and it's miserable. Particularly, they're terrible and they're like not even human. They don't feel real. And so it was just not fun to read those portions of it. They were short enough that I was okay with it. I could just keep going and get to a character that I liked. That was fine. But if you read the reviews, those two characters really ruined the story for some people. Okay, so I'll say my overall rating of this book was 4.5 stars. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads because, I don't know, that's how Goodreads works. But I will say it wasn't a perfect book, but I really enjoyed it. I am definitely going to continue the Live Ship Trader series, the trilogy. And I will say that I like this book better than anything I read in the Farseer trilogy because the plot was better. That's just my opinion, but I thought I'd share it with you. What do you think? Which do you think is better, the Farseer trilogy or the Live Ship trilogy or one of the other trilogies in the realm of the Elderlings? Let me know what you think about Robin Hobb's Whole World down in the comments below. Thanks! I hope you guys all have a great day. Bye!